Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians. I'm Simona, and I have a new co-host with me, so...
Hi, I'm Amanda. I work at the circulation desk here at the Mayapack Public Library.
Yeah, so Amanda's going to be my new co-host, very excited, and today we're going to be discussing the 2021 animated film Sailor Moon Eternal, the movie. And this animated film is based on the dream arc of the Sailor Moon manga, and Netflix acquired the rights to both films. It's a two-part film on June 3rd. So Amanda's notes are more extensive than mine, so I'm going to give it to her now. And
all right, so for people who don't know about Sailor Moon, which I'm like, it's very hard to not know about Sailor Moon because Sailor Moon has been such a prolific character here in the U.S. since the early 1990s. Sailor Moon actually came here in 1992 as a television show. For those who don't know, a quick synopsis of it is the Pretty Planet Guardians are back in their first movie debut after 25 years. Sailor Moon has, captivated everybody with their designs, their colorful attitudes, and also, their relation to also the LGBT community. Sailor Moon is a young middle school girl who finds out that she's the reincarnated princess of a moon kingdom, and so she and her friends, who are also called the Sailor Scouts, protect the Earth and also do teenager things during the day. So, Sailor Moon Eternal came back for 2 movies. It is a direct continuation of the previous season called Sailor Moon Crystal, which is a reanimated version of following the comics of Sailor Moon.
yeah.
So
I'm a big fan of the original 90s anime. I love that anime. Yeah. I had a hard time with the reboot. I had a hard time with the animation. And
I don't think anybody had a good time with the animation.
yeah, the animation just seemed really off to me. And I know that's some of the newer style because I know other anime it's sort of become prolific, I guess, with a lot of animated films.
The CGI for the cutting of the budgets, yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes CGI just doesn't work. Big fan of the original. I watched that when I was in middle school. So I was very excited when they did the reboot. And then when I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is so disappointing because the story just was so rushed. And I know that the reboot was following the manga more closely. And I'm not really familiar with the manga. I think I only read the first 3 volumes of it. So I'm coming from this just as a fan of the animated series. Yeah, so my thoughts in general going to the film, the first part was very difficult to get through. I didn't really like it. And also the Dead Moon, or is it the Dead Moon Circus arc?
It's the Dead Moon Circus.
Yeah, it's not my favorite arc of the series, to be perfectly honest. So the first part was really difficult because, I don't know, I find the Dead Moon Circus annoying. I'm sorry. It's like, get off screen already. The second part was a lot more enjoyable, and I think it's because I love the outer Sailor Scouts. So Sailor
Uranus.
I'm tempted to say Uranus. It's not Uranus. Sailor Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and
I try to be PC about
Saturn. Yes. They're my favorite Sailor Scouts, so I like when they were introduced. The second part was just more engaging.
Oh, definitely, completely. So, diving into the first movie.
Yeah.
I had the same initial thoughts. It took me a couple watches of the first one to truly appreciate it. It did feel a bit rushed, and also, for those of you who don't know Sailor Moon very well, Sailor Moon's human persona, her name is Usagi, which means rabbit in Japanese, which is more closely aligned to their myths, but I'm not going to go into that right now. She's not smart. Usagi is not smart. She is a 14-year-old who gets up late, can never make it to school on time. Her grades are abysmal. And her boyfriend, who is a very smart individual, makes fun of her for it.
Yes.
I was actually watching this alongside my boyfriend at home, and it was really funny. One of the first things she talks about is the Dead Moon arc comes in through the eclipse, and that's the whole plot of this one, is that the eclipse is like a bad sign.
Yeah.
And that's when the Dead Moon Circus shows up. But I forget what Usagi says about the eclipse.
Oh,
But Brian looked at it, and he literally was like, that's not how that works. And I looked at him, and I was just like, I'm like, you're expecting this non-intelligent individual to explain an eclipse to you. I'm like, you can't. You can't do
Not
it.
gonna work.
It can't work that way. But the first movie, I liked that it did deal with kind of getting to know more about the Sailor Scouts and what they want to do, because in this one, they have all just gotten into high school. And we all know that during high school is kind of the times when we start to think about what we want to do with our lives.
Yeah.
And, what do we want to work on? Because God knows, I'm sure everyone here, unless you're currently going through high school, has gone through career counseling. I know I did, and it wasn't a great time.
Yeah, I don't think I ever went through career counseling. To be perfectly honest, I know I had to go through counseling when I wanted to figure out what college I wanted to go to. I don't recall career counseling. Maybe it happened, but when it comes to high school, I tend to block out those memories. So
all I know is that my teacher, I had a counselor, and she was just like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I think I want to go into animation." She's like, "You want to go to school in North Carolina?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Where do you want to go?" I was like, thinking about going to Florida. And she's just like, "So we have places here." And I'm like, "No, you don't." And so they were very adamant about staying in North Carolina. And so it was not a good time for that one. And then I skipped so many different careers, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. But in Japan, I know in their high schools, it's a common trope, or it's a thing where they do very extensive career counseling, where they want you to know, what college are you interested in going to? What can we do to help you with up those grades? What can we do to help you do what you want to do? So in this case, the Sailor Scouts are all best friends. They're having a good time, but we also have an addition in this whole thing, her daughter.
Yes.
Sailor Moon has a daughter who comes back in time from the 30th century. Yeah, I know, Lewis, right?
Crystal Tokyo.
And she's got pink hair, despite the fact that her mommy and daddy do not have that. Mommy's got blonde hair, daddy's got black hair, and then you can anime characters. And so Chibi Usa is her name, or Chibi Moon, but we call her Chibi Usa. She's here, she's with her mom, she's having a great time, or not really a great time. She's the main focal point of the first movie, and even the second movie, because we are introduced to the fact that every girl in this story has something they want to do and they want to see achieved, a dream. Chibi Usa wants to be strong like her mother. She also wants to marry a prince, as a little pink-haired girl would probably want to do. Her mother just wants to live a happy life with her husband, or future husband. The other Sailor Scouts we come into encounter kind of have their own little individual screen time. So we also have the Dead Moon Circus, and their whole ploy is to turn these dreams into nightmares, and then to use that nightmare energy to power Queen Nehelenia of the dark side of the moon to try to take over the moon, because the moon is that important in space. Makes you think about it a little bit, is that you could have gone after any other planet, but you decided to go after. She's not technically going after the moon, she's going after the Earth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because a point to mention is that Usagi's boyfriend was the prince of the Earth.
Endymion.
At a certain point in one of his past lives. So, and I thought she also had a problem with him too.
Beryl had a problem. Queen Beryl had a problem.
She had the problem.
She was a Earth mage who fell in love with him, and he was like, "Nah."
The stories kind of blend, because Queen Nehelenia has a gripe with the moon, which
she's Maleficent. She didn't get invited to the birth party.
Yeah,
and she was like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, so that's her whole gripe with the Moon Kingdom, which you eventually learn, but. Yeah, so like Amanda was saying, all of the Sailor Scouts have their own dreams, their own insecurities, and the Dark Moon Circus try to basically twist those insecurities to their advantage to, eventually power their goal of taking over the moon. Or one thing though, which I understand that they have a short run time, but that they sort of overcame these
very easily.
Fears very easily. Some of these fears are big ones. Amy is the fear of I think abandonment because her parents are
Mercury. Yeah, Sailor Mercury.
Sailor Mercury. Because I'm using their English names. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. It's like
Yeah, like so her fear is like abandonment. Sailor Mars is that she is a temple maiden and she really wants to sort of
she doesn't want to take the easy way out
Exactly.
to achieve her goals of being a what is called a competent woman.
Yes. And Sailor Jupiter has aspirations of opening up her own business because she's also very independent. She lives alone. She loves cooking.
I felt like she was the most relatable, to be fair.
She was.
I had better respect for her.
Sailor Jupiter is always more relatable when it comes to the Sailor Scouts. Sailor Venus has leadership insecurity, which I completely forgot she is the leader. I thought Sailor Moon was the leader of the Scouts, but so she has leadership
because
problems.
Sailor Moon's graphic novel series didn't start with Sailor Moon. It was Sailor V who was the first Scout to actually be found.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Because she has her own manga, Sailor V, and she goes around as like a masked Sailor Scout looking, Sailor suit looking girl going around fighting crime and evil, and Sailor Moon has yet to be awoken, so that's why she's
forgot about that.
leader.
Yeah, so Sailor Venus is the first Scout, so she's been doing this for some time. So her insecurities around her leadership, so she tries to overcome that insecurity by entering a beauty pageant of some kind,
with a bunch of bathing suit clad ladies.
Yes, which doesn't really work, which can segue into one of my other problems with this thing was sort of the over-sexualization of the female characters. And I know you clarified one point with the Sailor Scouts.
Yes.
And their uniforms.
So for a while, Sailor Moon, for those who don't know, in the 90s when Sailor Moon was released, Sailor Moon became somewhat of like a sex icon. It's like the transformation sequence had her she's pink and silhouetted, and the U.S. censored the lines for where the buttocks and like the breasts would be. Sorry, everybody. So America got rid of those lines and made like this pink glittery like silhouette of the characters. And a lot of people went nuts for that. They were like, oh my goodness. And because Sailor Moon is a part of a genre in Japan and in comics called Magical Girls, where a lot of girls tend to have like an outfit change. And you get to see a really cool like transformation sequence through the whole thing. And it's usually kind of a magical, and you're like, wow, this is great. But a lot of people also took that as being very like sexualized as well. But as I clarified earlier, in the 90s, there was a certain art style, the shoujo, what's called the shoujo art style. And the shoujo art style consisted of like, bigger eyes, kind of like the way that they're framed in Sailor Moon, sometimes a bit more ornate, very long limbs, and stuff like that. A lot of them in high school. It was supposed to be kind of like a romantic, girly, feminine genre to attract other girls. They were supposed to be stylish.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the Sailor Scout uniforms, a lot of people don't know, is that the creator was very much into ice skating. So a lot of the outfits you see here are leotard based, and you get to see the leotard put on, but the problem then lies is that the skirts are kind of short, and they wear high heels, except for Jupiter and Mercury because they wear boots. Yeah. But if you see Mars, she's a very, very sultry lady with them red heels. But they have the flowing skirts that are short, and it's supposed to represent the love that the creator had for ice skating, and she wanted them to feel as if they were like more athletic and or that style. Yes. Hence why the capes are overly flowy, because when you see an ice skater, their skirts and clothes tend to flow to kind of show you the movement.
Yeah, I think another problem I had, and I think it's because I was reading about maybe the male directors, was you saw a lot of upskirt shots during the transformations.
Yes.
So that kind of, it's like the most awkward angles, even when you're
fan service.
It's true. That's what it was. I think they were trying to attract like the male audience for these like anime films. So
they were and they weren't.
Yeah, so it's I don't know.
I did think they wanted to keep some of that nostalgia, if anything, to the original ode to the thing. I liked that. Unfortunately, I'm a person who is very much against censorship, and the art is the way that the art should be. I do like that they didn't really censor it. Yeah. To be fair, because like with the transformation sequences, they brought back the lines.
No, that was a big issue. That's another issue where a lot of people had when it came to the anime coming to this country.
Yes.
They changed a lot. not just in censoring, like if there were bathtub scenes, you wouldn't see her breast lines. You know, they would just magically disappear. You know, with the transformations, like you said, they wouldn't show the lines.
Yes. And that was an okay change, I felt.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, but other changes, like with character relationships, which going into my favorite Sailor Scouts, Uranus and Neptune, they're in a relationship with one another. In America, they decided to make them cousins, which when you see certain situations, the sultry looks that they give each other.
I mean, this movie had it all. They were just like all over each other. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't make sense. I know in other countries, they made them siblings.
I know in the U.S. they made them cousins.
Yeah.
So we had a pair of kissing cousins.
Yes.
And you still had the looks of them. There were a lot of problems with when it came to, like, you, as you said, the LGBT communities, like the relationships.
Yes.
They did it with, I think it was Zoisite, and I can't remember the other one.
Is it Kunzite?
It might be a Kunzite. And I remember they turned one of them into a girl because they looked very feminine, as to shield young viewers from that. There was also, which we actually come in contact with in this, Dead Moon arc is actually one of the minions of the villains of the, main villain.
Yes.
Named Fisheye. And I don't know. The 90s anime did a really good job because they had what was called filler.
Yes.
And so you had the time in which they had to be able to expand upon a character's like motivations, just to get to know the character, do a good development.
Exactly.
And Fisheye was supposed to be a very androgynous character. You never really knew where they fit, but the outfits they chose and the hairstyles, all you could see was androgyny, and they were meant to be that way.
Yes.
They are a fish, though, just so everybody knows. It is a fish that turns into a very, very, very good-looking individual. So, amongst that, unfortunately, kind of going back to the first movie and kind of explaining some things and looking back at some of the Sailor Scouts' dreams, going back to what you said about Mercury, I kind of want to go through some of these and kind of, I'm not going to lie, everybody, I was a person who watched Sailor Moon as a child, and I had a best friend that was obsessed with Sailor Moon, but gosh darn, coming back to it like 20 years later, 15 years later, I did not like Sailor Moon anymore.
Yeah, I think because a lot of things aren't palatable. I think
it does not translate well to a modern society.
Exactly. Yeah.
So whereas yes, they did keep in like, Uranus and Neptune's relationship, they're no longer censoring that anymore. Although I remember in my notes here that the animated TV show, when they started bringing it out to Blu-ray, when one company they decided to do an uncut version, which was to bring back all the original and redub it.
Oh, okay.
So that way that could be a thing. So as I said, let's kind of jump into some of these characters real fast. So let's start with Mercury. Mercury lives alone with her mother, who is a divorced woman. Her father's a painter, if I'm not mistaken, and God knows where he is. I know in the 90s anime, it's kind of more expressed that Ami does have a very good relationship with her father, and she does idolize him. Mercury's dream is to become a doctor, like her mother. So she does a lot of reading, she does a lot of studying, she doesn't make a lot of time for friends, and she's afraid. She gets a dream one night. Her nightmare is that her mother is going to up and abandon her. Instead, she makes her mom seem like a cheating individual who's just going to leave her for another man. She's like, oh, she's just studying, whatever. Let's go have fun. And I'm just over here like, wow. Ami does have a lot of abandonment issues as it pertains to the divorce that her parents went with. And also the studying and all the hard work that she puts in. It does very well feel that if she doesn't make time for people, or if she's not doing the things that they want her to do, it might be a problem and people will abandon her. Yeah. And that's when Fisheye comes in to try to suck her into a mirror, because that's everyone's goal, is to suck them into a mirror and then put them in eternal darkness. Edgy. To which Fisheye is just like, I will love you. You can be here with me forever and you will never be alone. But then Mercury is all like, no, that's not true. I have friends. And then she breaks free of that whole thing. And we don't talk about Fisheye again. Yeah. Fisheye is there hugging her for a little while, kind of like cool scene. Then he's gone. So she kind of gets through her trauma. She becomes stronger. This is when all the girls get stronger because they realize they have friendship. Then we go to Sailor Mars, which I had the biggest problem with. I'm sorry. Mars. Mars she lives with her grandfather, and she talks to birds. So she's weird. And so working at a shrine, she wants to take it over one day. She wants to be a competent businesswoman who works hard for the things that she wants. And so she's reading business books constantly. She wants to go to school. She wants to figure out what she can do for the future of the thing. But, of course, her friends Jupiter and Venus, who are boy crazy, are all like, you could meet a handsome guy and you could date and do all these fun things. And she doesn't want that. She's like, that would be nice, but that's not really in my cards right now. But she is lured into, because the Dark Moon Circus is a circus, she is lured into a mirror house, to which she sees the persona of herself as a child. Now, anybody here who knows, and probably is a patron here at the Mayapack Library who reads a book, you can also assume that, when it comes to the use of children, it is usually a symbol of innocence. We all know that when we see a child, it's supposed to represent like that youthful nature of when we were innocent at some point. It is here we meet the villain, Tiger Eye.
Yeah.
And Tiger Eye is an interesting individual. Tiger Eye has a dream too. What's his dream, Simona?
What is this? Oh, Tiger. What is his dream?
He wants to be an artist.
Oh, yes, that's his dream.
Tiger guy.
No, Tiger Eye, because they're based off gemstones. So
he wants to be an artist.
He wants to be an artist. By artist, I'm sure he means a JoJo Bizarre's Adventure character. For those of you who don't know, poses. So he wants to be an artist, and that's all we know about him.
I guess that's all that really matters.
That's what I was like, okay, so Fisheye didn't have any goals but to bring her into deep despair.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a dream. So then we get some semblance of some character development here with Tiger's Eye. And he's like, my dream is to be an autist. And so you're like, all right, cool. Good for you, man. Good on you. So he is in charge of screwing with Sailor Mars here and her mind and bringing her into darkness. But he does it so by having a child version of her go, you could have an easy life. I don't care how many men I have to kiss, 2 or 3 of them, as long as I can live a cushy life, it's fine. To which I was a little like, all right. To which you see her then get into a wedding dress, the child version of herself, get into a wedding dress and then kiss this midriff tiger boy in the mirror. To which I was just like, hold up. That's a child.
Yeah.
And this is where I come into kind of some issues with Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
In a modern sense. I'm aware that in the 90s and in Japan, things are a little bit different. But when it is translated into like more of a 2020, 2021 sense, the use of children in this is not great.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's the part I didn't really react to. What I reacted to was her ravens, because Sailor Mars has some
Phobos and Deimos.
Yeah, has some like psychic sort of abilities. She is very spiritually connected. She can really sense evil more so than her friends. Was that they transform into these women, and this is when they're trying to encourage her, which is what I find really interesting. And they're
pretty
like these,
ladies.
Yeah, they're like these like scantily
one piece,
clad.
yes.
And I'm like,
I would hate to
Really?
say that they're not sexualized, but a part of me is like, I understand the style of the time because as someone who likes to collect a lot of manga from that time period, comics from that time period, I do see a lot of women who wear that, and I have no explanation as to why. As far as the Sailor Scout outfits, I can tell you, ice skaters. As far as Phobos and Deimos, couldn't tell you, but I was like, all right, space girls. They're like her guardians from Mars, and they're
Yeah.
just like space girls. Sure.
We'll go with that.
Birds. So Mars ends up being like, no, I don't believe that. I've got friends. I'm a competent woman. I can do it on my own, whatever.
Yeah.
Screw you, Tiger's Eye. And then as the mirror house shatters, all you hear is from Tiger Eye, I just wanted to be an artist. And I'm like, but you didn't tell us anything besides that about yourself.
I know you're meant to feel for these characters, but it's true they don't really get a lot of development.
It's like they progressed slightly,
but not
until
much.
you get to the next villain who goes after Sailor Jupiter. And I felt Sailor Jupiter was the most relatable out of all of this.
She definitely is.
She's a girl who's very tall and very insecure about her height. And so she is boy crazy too. Her dream, she has a couple dreams. She likes to bake and she likes to garden. So her dream is to open up a shop, whether it be a bakery or a flower shop, or she would like to have a family. Very young though, she would like to have that. She wants to basically get out of high school and she wants to have kids and have a very happy family, and do all that stuff. So she ends up finding a shop with Chibiusa that is like an herb shop. A scent shop, and it is run by one of the minions named Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is a male bird person who cross-dresses, wearing a dress in the shop. So, but it's kind of interesting. It's kind of refreshing to see that the character, you can just let the character be the character. And they didn't make any like comments towards it like, wow, you're just like a girl. No.
Yeah.
It was just like normal, whatever, like, wow. And Sailor Jupiter looked up to this person because Hawkeye we got more character development with as far as a dream goes. In saying that he wants to own his own shops. And then he says, but my dream doesn't end here. I don't want it to end. I achieved this dream, but my dream goes further. I want to own shops, open shops all around the world. And that's his dream and that's his goal. And I thought that was actually a very beautiful dream for him to have after being a bird for how many years? He
Which
wants
is
to
true.
get
You
out
almost
there.
forget that they're technically animals. So they only get like a really brief span of time to be human, and none of them really achieve their dream, which is very sad. I mean, it's funny because you're meant to feel sad for them, and Hawkeye, I did actually feel sad for him because he's the only one with development. The other ones, it's like, well, that's nice, but you're trying to make people go into their I don't know. It's
You're
like
trying to bring them into despair, which he does. He gives her a ring that sucks up her, negative energy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is kind of a mentor for like a day or two for Sailor
Exactly.
Jupiter as she goes back to the shop and talks to Hawkeye. And Hawkeye just talks grandly about this dream of his, only to be defeated at the end. And as he's sitting there in his last moments, and is just like, I hope you too can achieve your dream. And I was just like, oh, Hawkeye. As much as I didn't feel as bad, I still felt worse than the other characters. Where I was just like, okay, you want to be an artist and you just want to do whatever you're doing over there. I'm like, but you want to open a shop, and I felt genuinely bad. So
I did feel for his character.
Yes. So, but
very alchemist-esque.
yes, very much so. But Jupiter's whole thing was that she has many dreams, and it's okay to have a lot of dreams and a lot of goals in life, but maybe sometimes you have to prioritize what's first. And hers is protecting her friends. Hers is being a guardian and giving all that up. So then we get to Venus. I didn't like Venus. Venus is selfish and vain, and I don't enjoy her character. Normally I'm okay with that. But she wants to be a leader. She wants to be depended on, but instead of just saying, hey guys, I need some help, she decides to go off and try to do things on her own constantly, and then she ends up failing miserably. So she wants to also be a model, if I'm not mistaken. She wants to be famous. So it's no wonder she goes into she gets suckered into a idol competition.
With swimsuits.
But hers is the most tasteful swimsuit. I'm not gonna lie. She wears like a cute little one piece while everybody else is wearing bikinis and they're beating each other up because they're angry. It's literally, they're like, go save that child on a tower. And she's like, oh my God, why is there a child on a tower? And the rest of the girls are like, oh. They're like beating each other up. They're like, I'm going to save that kid. I'm like, well, you're not doing anything. Stop beating each other up. What is wrong with you? And their villains are I'm not even going to talk about them. They're just a bunch of daggers that have weird faces.
Yeah, the villains on Sailor Moon can be really creative, but really weird at the same time.
If you ever want to, just look up the villains of Sailor Moon from the 1990s. There's a couple good ones, like one dressed up as a toothpaste.
Yeah.
Dental hygiene, everybody. It's important.
Important, really important.
So, but Venus gets her thing back. She's like, I have to do this for my friends. Everybody's motivation is their friends.
Yeah.
So,
Which Sailor Moon is very big on. Like, I remember with the, at least with the American version, every time an episode ended, they had a moral of the day, like what you could
yes,
take
the
from
American
this.
version had an moral of the day.
Yeah, so Sailor Moon is very big about the power of friendship, the power of love, which they're very important
Girl
thing.
power.
Exactly,
Yes. Another big character, as I mentioned before, is we kind of focus a bit on Chibi Usa, Sailor Moon's daughter. Mm-hmm. I would also like to clarify for the people out there who are watching this, who have watched the movie and have seen the memes online about Chibi Usa saying she's in love with her father. Can we just clarify that one real fast? Because I watched
I
this
thought the
movie
same
like
thing.
5 times to clarify this. Chibi Usa's a young child in elementary school age. And she's got some big shoes to fill. She is a girl who idolizes her mother, but she also is jealous of her mother. She is a girl who wants to marry a prince. She is a girl who wants to be a beautiful and powerful protector like her mother. There is a scene in the movie to which Sailor Moon and her hubby are in bed snuggling. And she walks out the door and she's like, I love him. And a lot of people took that as more of a romantic feeling. But after watching it a couple times, as I did in both Japanese and in English, to see what the translation was, it is not a romantic love, everybody. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I know you guys want to make fun of it, but it is not a romantic love. It is more idolization. She's not in love with her father. She is in love with the relationship. She idolizes the relationship and she is kind of projecting herself. She wants to marry someone like her father, who's very like kind, princely, rich. Someone who needs her. That's the problem with Chibi Usa, though, is it comes down as she feels that she must be in a relationship with somebody who needs her, who wants her. And that's when we get her future lover in the 90s anime named Helios, who is a Pegasus. And this is where I start becoming embarrassed as I watch this movie.
He's a Pegasus who has a humanoid form, so
He was trapped in a human. He was trapped in a Pegasus form, trapped inside a cage.
Yes, so she's not falling in love with a horse per se, so we'll just clarify that.
Yeah, he's just pretty. He's just pretty. Sorry. I'm embarrassed talking about this because I have the memories in my mind of the exact scenes going on. So Helios has been trapped by Queen Nihilania because he was once a protector of Earth. He was basically a secretary to Prince Endymion, a.k.a. Tuxedo Mask, a.k.a. Mamoru, a.k.a. Sailor Moon's boyfriend. And Helios has been trapped so that he can't get any messages out, even though Queen Nihilania's security is very lax. And he's like, in every brief moment she's not watching me, I come and I try to help you guys. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of times, buddy. She's got to up that security. I don't know what to tell you. She's a bad villain. She's a bad villain.
I think it's because she's so like narrow-mindedly focused on, I guess.
What does she got to do? She's got like centuries. What does she got to do?
I know.
She had one job. Watch the horse boy in a cage.
Yeah, I think she should have just focused on self-improvement, considering how long she's been holding this,
him, but, you know.
holding on to
If I
this
was a
grudge.
villain, you know, and I don't want the information getting out, I'd kill the messenger, right? You know, that's a villain thing I would do. But no, we're going to trap him in a cage because plot. So Helios is looking for a pure maiden with beautiful dreams, to which he finds Chibi Usa. And Chibi Usa is like, oh, hot Pegasus boy. Only to find out later on that she was not the one he was supposed to go to. He was supposed to go to her mother to try to ask her for help. But there is a scene in the movie to which it is a magical, magical scene that I was very embarrassed watching as a 29-year-old. who watches a lot of horror, there's this very pink bubbly scene that she's riding in the air on his back over this beautiful cityscape at night, and he's just like, beautiful maiden. He calls her that all the time. Instead of just calling her by her name, she's like, I'm Chibiusa, and he's just like, beautiful maiden. And I'm just like, stop. That's like the first 10 minutes of this movie. And I'm sitting there.
No, honestly, those interactions are kind of hard to get through because we're not really the target audience for this anime.
I don't know about that. A part of me said that, the target audience was definitely for people who were fans of Sailor Moon way back when to try to be. There's this whole craze of going back to the original, going back to the anime adaptation. Yeah. And then adapting it truthfully to its source material. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was and it wasn't. And it's very hard because as somebody who, I was not a huge Sailor Moon fan. I watched it. Mm-hmm. I was not a huge fan. So part of me was just like, all right. Age group is gone. But Chibiusa is a very jealous lady in this story. Chibiusa. So they don't show it in the movies, and I don't think they will. I'm not sure if the next season that comes out for these movies. But Chibiusa in the future, there's an arc in Sailor Moon when she comes back as an adult, as Dark Chibi Moon, or she's like Pink Lady, I think, or Red. I don't know.
Oh, I thought that was in the Black Moon arc. Did they switch that around?
That's her. Yes. Oh. No, I know in the future or like past, I don't know exactly the full chronological order, but she comes back and she's angry. And you're like, why are you angry? And she's like, because my parents didn't come to my birthday party. And then she becomes evil. And you're just like, that's the reason? She's like, nobody showed up for my birthday party.
Well, the motivations a lot of the times in this like anime as to why people are upset, like Queen Helenia, she's upset because she wasn't invited to Sailor Moon's party.
I'd be angry too.
Yeah, but like not like destroy the world kind of angry. There's other issues going on there. Like a lot of this, sometimes the motivations behind why someone's doing something are kind of.
Well, also the rumors on the moon, because the Sailor Scouts as children also were like, we've heard of you, you're ugly, and you're mean. And I'm just like, she doesn't have a good rep with these people. I'm like, what are they? It's like propaganda over here. I'm like, she's
kind of like Slytherin House, because I was talking to Lewis about Slytherin House, how they're all evil. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's not one good person.
That's just what the trait is.
Exactly. So I think because she lives on the dark side of the moon, well, you're evil, I
would have invited her. I'd be like, hey, girl, no problems. Come on over. Have some cake. What's up?
She could have avoided all those problems if she had just been invited to the party.
That's essentially what it is. But at the same time, everyone hated her already. So it's like, why would you want to bring someone everybody hates? And I'm just over here like, it's a double-sided coin there. So finishing up this part one here and all the like base Sailor Scouts, I'm like, overall, I didn't really care for the first part of the movie. I get why it was there. Not a huge fan of it. I didn't like the use of children.
Okay.
In this case, because Sailor Moon is still 14, and she's just starting high school, and her boyfriend is a med student.
Yeah.
With his own apartment. Her parents are no idea what they're thinking.
Yeah. So I felt the same way. First part wasn't as good. Second part was definitely the stronger part. Long story short, the good guys win,
Always.
Yes. Helenia, she's foiled. She gets destroyed. I think they suck her into a mirror and then shatter her. Yeah. So basically, the good guys win. What I will say is, if you are a fan of Sailor Moon, the original, I think they're definitely trying to draw that crowd in. There's obviously new fans of Sailor Moon. She's incredibly popular still. I would say watch the movies. I still think they're worth watching. Even though the first part was a little shaky, I still felt good watching it because it brought back these really good memories. So It is on Netflix. So I would definitely recommend that you watch it.
See, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum on that one. I feel if you are a fan of Sailor Moon, you already know what you're expecting. Mm-hmm. So watching the movies, watching Crystal, because the movies are a direct sequel to the Crystal series, go ahead, watch them. It's great. You have some nostalgia there and have a good time. And don't watch it for the plot, because the plot doesn't make sense, but have fun with it. But if you are someone trying to get into Sailor Moon, I don't recommend Crystal, and I don't recommend these movies, because if you're looking at it from a modern, if you're not understanding the time period Sailor Moon came out in, and all the things that, like, stylistically, you know, politically and stuff like that, you're really not gonna be happy with it, because, as I said, there's a lot of the children thing. There's, you know, Sailor Moon being 14. I'm like, watch the 90s version. Just go watch the 90s version. Do that. Watch it uncensored, because you'll get a lot better sense of things, because the fillers did a lot of good. But as far as Crystal and these movies are concerned, if you are a modern person watching them, you will not enjoy them, because there are a lot of things that don't pertain to the modern thought. I'm like, but if you're open-minded, go right ahead. If you're here looking for nostalgia, if you're here looking for, like, you know, an understanding of Sailor Moon, kind of getting into it because you are an anime fan or a cultural attaché of sorts, you might really very well. You have to have an open mind to watch Sailor Moon. And don't, as I said, don't take it too seriously. It's not one of those hard thought animes where you have to, like, really think deep, like, oh, there's a message here.
Exactly.
There's not.
Exactly. So just we're going to wrap it up by thanking you for joining us, and we look forward to, you know, talking with you guys again. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.